Hello all. I first just wanted to start with saying how proud I am for the essays that you have submitted to me, and I've really enjoyed getting to hear your heart through your words that you put on this piece of paper for me to read. And I know that that was maybe uncomfortable for some of you and vulnerable, and some of you just loved the experience. And through all of those, I'm excited that you've decided to share that with me, and I am just very much looking forward to continuing this class with you and learning more about you as you also learn more about me. This month we're doing a lot of things that are uncomfortable, and that is what I'm currently doing in this recording. Pretty much the last thing I want to do is be recorded on camera, but that is what we have right now, and that's what's needed, and I want to be able to meet the needs of Summer Academy as well as just be able to have this experience with you fully. And in order to have the experience fully, we both have to do uncomfortable things. So here I am doing this, and I thank you for doing uncomfortable things as well. Something that I thought was important for us to talk about based on what we talked about last Wednesday in class is mindfulness. You guys are very interested in learning about yourself and learning about those around you, and I think that mindfulness is something that can be very beneficial in doing both of those. So I want this to be discussion based, but it's so difficult for it to be. So in saying that, that's what my intention is on Wednesday, is that we'll talk about what I'm talking about now, and then we'll talk about the assignment that you'll have at the end of this. So what is mindfulness? A question that I've thought a lot about is, it's kind of a play on words, but sometimes our mind is full, and then sometimes we can be mindful. So which are you going to choose? And oftentimes it is true that our mind is full instead of us being mindful. So I do want you to just consider what this word means to you, what mindfulness means, and that's a word that's thrown around, and a lot of people don't give much context with it, but they just expect you to be mindful without explaining it. So that's kind of what I want our time to look like. So I have given it the definition of mindfulness as having an awareness of the present moment without judgment. It is when we are allowing ourselves to be in relationship with ourselves. And that might sound kind of strange, to be in a relationship with yourself, but really that's what you guys were doing whenever you were writing these essays to me, is you were turning towards yourself and being curious of what's inside of you, what's made you who you are, who has made you who you are. And that's also what these interviews that we're asking you guys to participate in is doing as well, as encouraging you to be mindful of yourself and to truly be in relationship with yourself. There's a man by the name of John Kabat-Zinn, and he has developed mindfulness-based stress reduction, and he's actually written a book, and I will talk about this in just a little bit, but he has defined mindfulness as an awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And then he sometimes adds that it is in the service of self-understanding and wisdom. And I just think that that's really beautifully put. Further than that, Carla Nomberg defines mindfulness as choosing to pay attention to the present moment with kindness and with curiosity. And I don't know if you guys remember your childhood a lot. Sometimes it's difficult for me to go back and think of my childhood, but when I think of kids, I just think of curiosity and how they are open and willing to experience just a vast majority of situations with a curiosity. And if we can go back to that mindset, I think that we then engage and experience situations so differently than deciding how we're going to experience something before we experience it. And so mindfulness truly is just an openness to explore a situation with curiosity. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the book Man Searching for Meaning. Within my program, it's been talked about quite a bit, and I know that it's a rather popular book among society as well. So the man that wrote this is Viktor Frankl. He is a Holocaust survivor, and he is also an Australian neurologist. And this quote from his book that just really speaks to me is, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So essentially what this is saying is that when something happens, when a situation arises, we get to choose how we respond to it. And how we choose to respond to it then determines whether we're going to experience growth and freedom or if we're going to be stuck in that moment. And whenever we have a closed mind, when we resist change, when we resist and turn away from things that are situations, then we don't experience growth, and we surely don't experience freedom in it because we're closing ourselves off to experiencing anything. But whenever we open ourselves up to experience that with mindfulness and being present in the moments, then we do get to experience growth and freedom. John Kabat-Zinn also has 9 foundational attitudes that he talks about in his book for experiencing mindfulness. And you guys are going to get this slide, so I'll put this in Google Classroom for you guys to have, but I just want to go over them briefly. He suggests that we have a beginner's mind, and that really just helps us to experience creativity of being, again, I've used the word open so many times, and I'm getting tired of it myself, but being open to experiencing different ways of being mindful through seeing, through doing a body scan, through listening, through guided imagery. There are so many ways. Breathing, we've talked about that before. Breathing exercises. There are so many ways that you can experience mindfulness. And it's important for you to just know that there are those different ways. Acceptance, and so whenever a situation arises and it's not pleasant or you wish it could be different, acceptance doesn't mean that you're accepting the situation as it is, that it's going to be that forever and that it has to be that way, but it's accepting that, okay, this is the situation I am, this is what's happening around me. How do I just accept that and not necessarily be okay with it, but allow for peace to run through me? So acknowledging that it doesn't have to be that way forever, but that is the way that it is currently. Turning towards that and acknowledging that that is the truth in that time. Non-judgmental. This is something that we judge our thoughts and we judge others so subconsciously. We're not even aware that we're doing that, and so when we get into this state of mindfulness, we really get to let go of that judgment, and that's what he's suggesting in that. And then next to are patience and trust, and both of those I think are primarily patience with ourselves and trusting ourselves, trusting our body, trusting the connection between our mind and our heart and our true self, and trusting that that we have been equipped to handle situations, and being patient with ourselves and knowing that we may not get the outcome that we want right away, but we can be patient in that, and continually it's a process that we get to experience and encounter. Non-striving, so all of you are very determined, all of you have a goal in mind that you want to achieve, and really mindfulness is letting go of that set goal that you might have, and again experiencing the process of, I'm going to be present with where I'm at currently, and I'm not going to be striving for something in the future. Though I can have a goal set for myself, I'm not stuck in this moment because I'm only thinking of the future, but really being present with yourself. Letting go really goes hand in hand with non-striving, of letting go of what you think the ideal situation or circumstance might be and being present. The next is generosity and then gratitude. Being generous with yourself. Again, it goes with trust and patience, and then gratitude. Thankfulness goes a long way, and I know that Miss Stephanie has really encouraged that in all of you, to be grateful for little moments, big moments, and every moment in between. Whenever we turn towards a situation with gratefulness and gratitude, it changes the way that we see it, because it's as if we're fumble in my mouth. It's as if we are receiving from the situation what it has to give, in a pure and childlike way. And again, all of those truly do encourage us to open ourselves up to situations that arise. Kind of last thing I wanted to talk about, which I think is huge and something that really I've only began to understand in the past year or so, and something that has changed my view of situations tremendously. And so I hope that this can be something for you all to try out as well. So there's such a difference in the words reacting and responding. Reacting on autopilot just means that is whenever you don't think about the situation at all. It's like a knee-jerk reaction to something. It just happens within you. And then responding mindfully is taking time to think about it and understand it, and acknowledging what is going on and allowing it to go on, and turning towards it to understand it better. And then reacting is that you're resisting the situation, you're ignoring it, and you're turning away from it. So the example that comes to mind is, think about whenever you have a headache. A headache comes on, and if you react to the headache on autopilot, it's automatically, you're angry because you have a headache, and you're like, you have these emotions towards the headache itself. But if you're responding to the headache mindfully, you might ask yourself, okay, have I drank water today? Have I eaten today? Did I get enough sleep? You're acknowledging the feeling, the response that your body is giving you, and your body is designed to take care of you. And so if we respond mindfully to the trigger that we have a headache, then we might be able to understand why, instead of just resisting it, which happens with reacting. Reacting on autopilot often leads to a fear of assumed danger. So we automatically think like the headache is then threatening to us, instead of just trusting our bodies that something is not going right and curiously trying to understand it, which is the difference again between reacting and responding. When we react, we don't feel as if we have a sense of control, because the headache then has power over us, because we're not even trying to understand it, and it's then controlling our entire day. It's controlling our interactions with others. We're more likely to be angry. We're more likely to just go off on somebody. We're more likely to just want to go lay down and go to sleep, instead of trying to alleviate the root problem by understanding what's going on. So whenever we respond mindfully, we're more likely to feel a sense of choice in the situation and control. So then we have control over the headache instead of the headache having control over us. And that is applicable to so many different situations in your life. And what's interesting is whenever we react to situations, we actually upregulate our nervous system, which then makes us have a increased sensitivity to whatever is happening to us. Whereas whenever we respond mindfully, we're more likely to downregulate our nervous system, and we have a decreased sensitivity to the trigger or whatever the situation might be. So I know that that's a lot of information, and that's something that I have been taught for the past 2.5-ish years, roughly. And so it makes sense to me. I've also been able to practice it. I've also read research on it, and so it's different for me maybe than hearing it quite possibly for the first time. You guys may be experts, and if you are, please teach me something, because there's always more to learn. There are a couple of ways that you can incorporate mindfulness into your day. I know that quarantine has allowed us to go on more walks. It's allowed us to spend more time listening to music, or more time reading, or more time with our friends, or maybe just more time just alone. So there are two different ways to experience mindfulness, and one is a formal way and one is an informal way. Formal would be sitting meditation, walking meditation, a body scan, or quite possibly even yoga. And you guys are actually going to get to do that, I think, yoga through Upward Bound this month. I'm not sure where that falls in, but maybe you can even incorporate that into your time of doing yoga, is this mindful practice. And then there's the informal ways, and this might sound silly, but brushing your teeth in the morning and at night. You can do just a little mindful exercise of, okay, how has my day been? How is my body feeling? What kind of thoughts have I had today? Just questions like that, just check-ins really with you. Brushing your hair, eating a meal. There's so many different ways, everyday activities you can incorporate mindfulness into. I think that mindfulness truly is more about how we do something than what we're doing. So the process, again, is really beautiful. And I've had a professor all through my graduate program that has said to trust the process from the moment I started the program. And honestly, at the very beginning, it aggravated me to no end, because I just got tired of hearing that. But at this point, I am a believer in that, of trusting the process and allowing yourself to be present in each moment of the process. So, all of that to say, I know that this assignment that I'm going to assign might be uncomfortable, but I will have posted, by the time you watch this, 4 videos for you to watch of mindfulness, and they're different exercises for you to do. I want you to watch all of them. They're not long. I think the longest is 8 minutes and the shortest is 2 minutes, so that's not much time at all. And I then want you to write about your experience. Include something that you've learned. Include how you want to incorporate this into your daily practice. And I'm really excited to hear about your experience, though I'm sure it's going to be uncomfortable, because you're going to have to just be so present with yourself. And I really encourage you to allow it in. Allow what you're feeling to be experienced. Allow what you're thinking to be experienced, because as Miss Stephanie and Mr. Scott and Miss Linnell and everybody else I'm sure in your life has talked about, that these are strange times, they're stressful times, and right now you're in the middle of summer academy and you guys are working so hard. And I want you to know that you're important and that you are worthy of knowing yourself and of being seen and being heard. And something that mindfulness, I think, helps with is knowing what needs to be heard and what your needs are, and all of us at Upward Bound want to know what those are so we can best serve you. And so maybe this can be a time for you to continue learning about yourself, and I am excited to hear about your experience, read about your experience, as I've already gotten to read so much from you and about you. So I look forward to this assignment and just the discussion that it creates on Wednesday, and I will see you then.